Carl, welcome to On Target Talks. This is the podcast that we talk about real estate, guns, and fun. And this is going to be kind of more in the gun section. And so I'm going to give a little intro to my man Carl here. Carl Ward is a veteran with an impressive 20 years of service in the United States Navy, reaching the rank of lieutenant commander when retiring. He served mainly in nuclear ballistic submarines, deployed on 11 submarine patrols, 1 aircraft carrier deployment, 1 deployment in Iraq, and Carl has an MBA in contracting and acquisition management. He also has the following qualifications: NASO DEWIA Level 3 in contracting, and unlimited contracting officer's warrants. We met when we competed at the one-gun pistol competition at C2 Tactical in Scottsdale, and we've become shooting partners ever since. In addition to an incredible military career, Carl is single-handedly the most knowledgeable Star Wars fan I have ever met. Welcome to On Target Talks, Carl. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you, Garrett. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
very nice.
Absolutely. Before we kind of dive in, is there anything else that you want to add or anything to that little intro?
No, I appreciate it very much. It's always humbling to hear someone read what you've done.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that.
A ton of accomplishments. 20-year career. That's pretty sizable. That's incredible.
It was 1994 to 2014.
Wow.
And the days went slow, but the years went fast. Is
Yeah.
about the best way to put it.
So were you, kind of just jumping into, how long your career was there any moments where you thought about, not re-enlisting or anything like that?
Yes. Starting from the beginning is after I graduated college in North Carolina, had trouble finding a job. So I literally was living in South Carolina with my brother at the time, and went into the Navy recruiting station one day and just walked up and said, "What will you pay me the most to do?"
Oh.
And the guy said, "Well, there's this thing called a Navy nuke." And I had no idea. No one in my family was military. My dad had served a couple of years in the Coast Guard in World War II.
Okay.
But that was about it.
Right.
So modern military, we knew nothing about it. So I'm like, sure. He's like, just take these tests. I said, okay. So I took the tests and I qualified. And I had paid my own way through college, worked in student loans. So at that time in my life, I did have some debt. And bottom line is, if I completed the nuclear power training program and re-enlisted, the cash incentive the Navy was offering at the time was enough to completely pay everything off.
Wow.
So I did that. And I enlisted, went to recruit training in Great Lakes in December in Michigan. It was extremely cold.
Right.
A lot of snow. Then after graduating basic training, went to Orlando, Florida. That is where Navy Nuclear Power Training Command was located. And what that is it's basically a 1.5 year school it's a undergraduate in nuclear engineering that's been condensed down to an extremely intense 1.5 year school.
Wow.
It's more of an associate's degree than an undergraduate. But,
Right.
So you had to go to your A school, which I was an electrician. So I had to go to electrician's A school for 6 months, Naval Nuclear Power School for 6 months, and then the prototype training, which was in Charleston, South Carolina, where you actually have 2 decommissioned submarines with operational reactors, and you spend 6 months operating on and working and learning how to work on a nuclear reactor.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yep. That was the time in my life where I learned more discipline than I ever thought I would.
Right.
Because Naval Nuclear Power School is no joke. It was mandatory study hours every night, i.e., you go into a classroom, there is a person monitoring you, you sign in, you're watched while you study, you sign out to go to the bathroom, you sign back in.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, I mean it was very, very disciplined because it was it's a very academically challenging program, and it should
Wow.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You're working on nukes.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I did that, and then when I graduated from that program, I went to Kings Bay, Georgia, to the USS West Virginia, which is where I did 6 of my 11 patrols as a nuclear electrician's mate.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Did some of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. There's a thing they do twice a year where they do a test launch of a ballistic missile.
Oh.
And it's never planned. So what they do is they call one submarine that's actually out doing its job, one ballistic missile submarine in on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And you come into port and they offload your live ordnance and they put on a dummy and a tracking warhead, essentially.
Wow.
On several of the missiles. And then you go out to sea and you're at war. And I'm using air quotes here.
Right, of course. Yeah. For those of us not watching, yes,
yep.
Absolutely.
But it was really cool because we actually got to launch 4 missiles.
Wow.
Off the coast of Florida, and our target was off the coast of Africa, and the furthest we were off target was 6 inches.
You're kidding.
It was
That's
awesome.
Crazy.
It was so fun. And I mean, being on a submarine is incredibly cool.
Yeah.
It's just so different than anything else I've ever experienced. But when you launch those, I mean, they're huge. And the whole boat shakes. And one of the things everyone likes to do is if your watch station allows it, is you rung up and you hug the tube that's being launched. So you can feel it shake.
Gosh.
Yeah. I mean, you can literally see the ship bow. I mean, it's really cool.
What an insane experience.
Oh, it's awesome.
That is, the fact that you're from the coast of Florida to Africa and just being off by 6 inches, that is crazy.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and this was in the late 90s.
God only knows what they have now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was the late 90s. But no, we did that. The other cool thing I was able to do was, I mentioned earlier, my dad was in the Coast Guard in World War II. Well, he was off the coast of Ireland looking for German submarines. So I got a chance. There's a thing in the Navy called a Tiger Cruise, where you can bring family on board for 24 hours. I got a chance to bring my dad underway on a submarine for 24 hours. And at that time, I believe he was 66 years old. He was acting like a 12-year-old.
Oh,
I mean, I got to let him look out the periscope. We let him drive the sub.
Wow.
We did angles and dangles, which is another thing you do on subs to test. We'll have shipyard periods, and when you go out, it's very important that submarines are quiet.
Yeah.
So we have to check that everything is stowed for sea, which means everything has to be tied down.
Right.
So one of the ways we test for that is you go out into the ocean, and then you do a 10-degree down angle.
Okay.
So imagine your entire world tilting 10 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
And you go down, then you do a 10-degree up angle. Then you turn around, you do a 20-degree down angle and a 20-degree up angle. And then you finish with a 30-degree down angle and a 30-degree up angle. I've got some pictures, but I actually took my dad down to the torpedo room when we were doing this. And several of us, just to give a good perspective, we were hanging on the rafters when the boat did a 30-degree so people could take pictures and you could see really the tilt, because that's the only way to really illustrate the tilt.
And 30 degrees, that's not just a little amount.
Oh, no.
Like that's a fair amount.
It is. And it was, that was always fun. You always just had to find somewhere to brace yourself. Any seats on the submarines all have seat belts for that reason.
Right. Oh man. So I'm sure this is a silly question, but I'm assuming that some people can get seasick, I would assume.
Very few.
Interesting.
Because we don't spend a lot of time on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you bounce around.
Okay.
That's when people would get seasick.
Interesting.
But when you're underwater, it feels exactly like this.
No way.
Yep. Most of the time, you're doing this. I mean, every now and then you'll hit a current or something, and you'll have a little shimmy. But most of the time, it's just like this.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to envision because, I mean, obviously you know about submarines and they're almost like an enigma that I feel like isn't necessarily mainstream. Like people don't necessarily, the amount of people that have been on submarines is very few. So it's fascinating to hear like kind of your experience. What was your favorite thing about, working in submarines?
Just the uniqueness of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you only see in the movies.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool to be able, like when you're in control, cut on and you literally hear whale song, and you're in the middle of a pod of whales, and you hear it, and it is just cool. There's no other way to put it. I mean, it's just really a unique thing to go do. And then but as I was finishing up on the West Virginia, I didn't realize I was finishing up, but we had a new executive officer and a new engineer come on board, and they reviewed my record and saw I had a degree and said, "Why haven't you applied for OCS?" And my response was, "What's OCS?"
Right.
So basically they helped me get on the path to getting commissioned. So I was commissioned as a supply corps officer, and then I went to Officer Candidate School in Pensacola, Florida, which is run by Second Tour Marine Corps gunnery sergeants. Mm-hmm. And wow, that put boot camp to shame.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Just really intense?
Yes, extremely.
Tell me more.
Well, it's run by Marines. And I mean, you were up every morning. You were running 3 to 5 miles. You dropped so much weight during your first couple of weeks because you're not eating properly. And if you don't eat properly, the entire group gets punished. That means you go outside and do push-ups. So I got in really good shape in those 3 months. But yeah, no, it was fantastic. And again, just instilling the core values of the Navy of honor, commitment, courage.
Yeah.
I learned the Marine hymn very well. Yes, but no, it was a fantastic experience. I mean, it really was. And then we got commissioned at the end of that. Mm-hmm. And then at Navy Supply Corps School, which was in Athens, Georgia at the time, which was fantastic. I mean, it was wonderful. We were the first crew of new officers to come through there, where 75% of us were all prior enlisted.
Right.
Because the Navy was making a change, and they were taking mid-grade officers, which are lieutenants, 03, off of submarine duty and replacing them with ensigns, with new officers as supply officers on submarines.
Right.
So they rounded all of us who were prior submariners on board, or rounded us all up and said, "You're all going back to boats." And of course, we're like, "We know submarines, we're fine."
Yeah.
So I ended up going right back to Kings Bay, but this time to the USS Nebraska, which again was phenomenal. The most, in a very circuitous way to answer your question, but without a doubt, the most memorable moment on submarines was when I was on the Nebraska. And part of your duties as a supply officer is you qualify as the diving officer of the watch. Well, one morning, it was 5 o'clock in the morning Zulu, or just before 5. I had to relieve the watch, and I was doing my pre-watch tour with my cup of coffee. And we got this emergency action message, which if you've ever seen the movie Crimson Tide, you get this flashing thing. It's actually fairly accurate. It actually does look like that.
No way.
It's close. Yeah, it's not exact. But
right.
So that went off, and the day before, we had said, we had radioed fleet and told them, look, we're pulling in, in 2 days. to go participate on an exercise we had to go do.
Mm-hmm.
So leave us out of this exercise. And we were all like, oh man, they just included us anyway.
Right.
Well, I was the only officer who was awake, other than the ones on watch, who had the clearance to go into radio.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, hey, can you go decode that? And I said, yeah. And I went and decoded it. And I decoded the first couple of lines. I looked at the radio operator. He was a pale white and sweating.
Oh, my gosh.
It was September 11th.
No kidding.
2001. Oh,
my gosh.
So, yeah, we were supposed to pull in on September 12th. But
wow.
That hit, and what everyone else on the planet, saw it happen on TV.
Yeah.
We got a message that said New York attacked, DC attacked.
Oh my gosh. I can only just imagine what was going through your mind at that exact moment.
Well, I walked out and handed it to the officer of the deck. I said, I'm going to go wake up the XO. You go wake up the captain right now. And we got everybody, because of certain protocols involved with things that happen. You have to have 4 officers who are qualified all agree on what the message says in order to carry it out.
Absolutely.
So, it was, I will never forget that. And I still have that same coffee cup. Actually, I didn't point it out to you when you were in my office, when you were over the other weekend.
Yeah.
But I have that coffee cup, and the only time I use it is September 11th every year.
I believe
I have
it.
That coffee cup. Because we didn't know what had happened for, I want to say, 4 to 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just didn't get any more information.
We were getting information, but it wasn't specific. It was all our orders to go do stuff. They didn't really come back and explain to us.
Wow.
Well, again, this is another part about being on submarines.
Mm-hmm.
They don't deliver bad news. Because the only communication to a submarine is through official channels. There's no telephones, there's no cell phones, there's no internet.
Yeah.
There's none of that. And you can't have somebody, quote unquote, lose it on a submarine.
Yeah.
So everything is controlled, and rightfully so. I mean,
it makes sense.
Yep. But, really it wasn't. And I remember, we had been in and out of port so many times. We knew the routine.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, I remember we were coming back to port when we finally got clearance to come back in. And it was, literally our sonar operators ripped their headphones off. And we're like, what's going on? They said, there is just active sonar everywhere. We're like, what? Well, they had set up a picket line of our own ships.
Mm-hmm.
And told us exactly where to surface. And when we surfaced, there were helo gunships and 2 destroyers waiting to escort us to the safety point, or how we got back to port. And then once we got closer to land, the Coast Guard took over, and we had armed Coast Guard escorts. And
wow.
We'd never had anything like that.
Just because of the higher threat level and everything?
Yep.
Wow.
And when you get back, that was the first time we ever got back, and our families were not waiting on the pier. And then it was, you had to go to the upper base, because the base in Georgia has an upper base, which has your medical, your commissary, your gym, and all this stuff up here.
Yeah.
And the lower base is where the boats and other things are.
Yeah.
But we pulled out, or, we had just come back from sea, and we're leaving, and there's like tanks parked.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were all like,
oh my gosh.
Whoa. Yeah, so that is absolutely etched in my memory forever.
Yeah.
Yep. As is 3 weeks later, one of my jobs as a supply officer on submarines, I was a public affairs officer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the USS Nebraska specifically, has an enormous support from the home state. There's actually a group called the Big Red Sub Club.
Mm-hmm.
And they are just a bunch of people in Nebraska who are just very, very pro-military and really support their namesake submarine.
Right.
Well, they flew us out for a home state visit. And one of the things we did is we were there for the weekend of the Nebraska-Oklahoma football game. And we were in our dress blues, and they marched us out on the 50-yard line. And it was, USA. Yeah, it was just overwhelming at that time. It was incredible.
Oh my gosh! Especially during that time where,
Yep.
I feel like the country was really unified at
They
that
were.
moment.
They were.
Yeah.
And it was just overwhelming. And to be honest with you, I've never felt so small in my life.
Yeah.
Those football players were huge.
Right.
We were down on the field, and they're all coming up, shaking our hands. And I'm like, yeah, that hurt, but I'm not going to say anything.
Right. I'm a military guy.
No. That was truly amazing.
That's absolutely incredible. It's incredible to hear that story of you in that perspective. Just to share a little bit. So my birthday is actually September 11th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I turned 10, watched on TV and everything, and I'm always fascinated by that shared experience from other people. And you're the first person that I've spoken with that was like active military at that time. And that is such a chilling story of, being there and having that oh shit moment of, oh my gosh, America's under attack.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was, we trained for it. We did our jobs. We did what we were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when the moment hits, it's scary.
Yeah.
And it was, oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. I could just imagine. So I know that in the military you served in logistics and everything
Yes.
like that. For our listeners out there, can you explain a little bit more what that looks like?
Well, a supply officer is basically a jack of all trades when it comes to logistics. Getting point A to point B, we joke about it all the time, bullets and beans, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't deploy on a ship, you can't deploy on a battlefield unless you can feed your troops, house your troops, get them ammunition, get them bullets, get them everything in the world you need.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that on a worldwide scale, nobody in the world does it better than the United States Navy.
I believe it.
One of the big things we do, and I'll fast forward to the aircraft carrier, we're the only nation on the planet that can do what's called an UNREP, an underway replenishment. And what you do is we'll have a large supply ship come up next to the carrier, and we will literally fire cables over and string up cables between the ships and zip line 2 pallets high. You're zip lining pallets to resupply the ship. And then you have helos dropping other pallets on the flight deck of the carrier.
Wow.
We're the only Navy in the world that can do that.
That's incredible.
To keep our ships moving, right?
Yeah.
Because, again, we've got, on an aircraft carrier, you have between 5,000 to 6,000 people when it's deployed. It's a city.
No way. I didn't realize that there was that many people.
It's a city.
Wow.
And, it's a full-on city. And you got to feed them. You got to, you need uniforms. You need tools. You need everything that you need to operate a city.
Wow. How big would you say an aircraft carrier is? Just so people can kind of have a general idea. Because 6,000 people, that's a lot.
It is. Honestly, it's been so long since I've looked. But rough, just to give you an idea.
Yeah, just a ballpark.
Couple of football fields long.
Okay.
And probably about a football field high.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty large.
Oh, it was. They're amazing to see in dry dock. My last civilian government job after I took off the uniform, I was the contracting officer administering the contracts for aircraft carrier construction and submarine construction, overhaul, repair, and refueling.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to watch the Gerald Ford come to life.
No way.
Yeah, and it was phenomenal. Being in there, being able to stand on the wall when they flooded the dry dock for the first time, after watching them build it from the keel up. It's incredibly cool.
It's a marvel. It
is.
It's really incredible when you kind of take in consideration, the size of the military of the U.S. I think this stat is probably wrong, but essentially out of the top 5 like air forces in the world, like America has like the top 3 or something like that.
That's about right.
It's absolutely incredible, just the sheer amount of power that the military has.
Correct.
Yeah, and the logistics that it takes to, take care of a small city on the water. Like, that's crazy.
Well, we always had a sign hanging over supply on the carrier. Said, warriors win battles, logistics wins wars.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Super true. Yeah. I mean, you can be in a battle for an instant, but I mean... an army marches on its stomach,
There you go. Real quick story for you.
Yeah.
When I met my wife when we were at the Naval Postgraduate School.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone is there with your families. You're only there for 18 months. So it tends to be a pretty close-knit community.
Yeah.
Well, one of the ladies in my wife's class was pregnant. So we threw a baby shower for her at my fiance at the time's place.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny because everybody came, all the men, all the women, everybody. And they were playing the typical baby shower games, but all the men were gathered in the kitchen with me, and we were one team, right? We were all trying to compete. And
right.
Of course, we had a cooler of beer.
Of course.
But I looked around, and I'm like, I'm the only one here that's not some kind of Ranger Special Forces Airborne Rambo dude. And one of our friends, who's this hulk of a guy, puts his arm around me. He's like, does it make you feel nervous? And I said, not really, because I'm the most valuable guy in the room. And they all kind of looked at me real quick. And I'm like, you guys are going to need bullets and beans at some point.
Right.
And they all looked at each other and were like, you know what? You're right. You're right. Here, have another beer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, give me extra on the bullets next time, next shipment. Right?
Exactly. But
it makes sense. It makes so much sense. It's fascinating, kind of the point of like manufacture, getting the supply shipment and then getting it to the people. Especially like you could venture to say that getting supplies to a aircraft carrier would be like an adverse environment. I mean, you're pretty much surrounded by endless water, so That's just a feat in itself.
Well, it is, and then putting the fact that when we were deployed in the Gulf, you're in a combat zone,
right?
So you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, when you're coming in for a landing, you have to keep everything clear. I was fortunate enough to when I first went to the aircraft carrier, I was fortunate enough to fly onto the carrier.
Oh, no
and
way.
It was a prop plane. It wasn't a fighter jet, but still.
I mean, still, yeah.
Just the experience of coming in and landing and catching the wire. Especially, I had just come off submarine duty for 7 years, so I was like, "This is cool."
It's like the exact opposite of a submarine.
It is. I was like, "I'm in the air. I'm not supposed to be here."
Right here, like, this isn't wet enough, right?
Exactly.
That I could just imagine. I was thinking about that the other day. How horrifying it would be to land on an aircraft carrier. Because I mean, granted, I don't know the procedures. I don't know the likelihood of missing the cable to strap it down.
We did that. We missed the cable.
No way.
The first time coming in, and it was funny because I was flying back to the ship as part of the crew rotation. So I actually had several F-18 pilots that were with me as passengers. So yeah, we're coming in, and and then you hear the engines rev again. You hear the tires hit the deck. Then you hear the engines rev, and we do this.
Oh my!
And all the fighter pilots just started howling, laughing. They are like, and I forget the pilot's call sign, but they were like, "We are going to rip him." I can't believe, you're coasting in on this thing. And I was like, "Guys," and they all looked at me. I'm like, "Can we let him land and then roast him?" And of course, they all started laughing. Yeah, we looped around. And then, he caught the cable, and we landed.
Right.
And, the pilots just, I mean, were just, and you could tell that poor pilot, he was just shaking his head.
Oh,
like,
how
I'm never going to leave this down.
Especially with an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gracious. Kind of, circling back to, being on a submarine.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the longest that you've ever been submerged underwater, like on a patrol or
88 days.
88 days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. What does that look like to make that happen? I mean, just like the logistics side, because you have, food, you probably have fuel, oxygen.
Well, we have a little bit of fuel for the diesel.
Okay.
We have an emergency generator on board, but with the reactor, we can go on for literally 50 years.
Wow.
They're built to last 50 years. We typically do a refueling around 25 years, but there's still fuel left. So
no kidding.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that piece of it. That's one of the wonders of our nuclear fleet is propulsion is taken care of. You don't need to worry about it.
That's incredible. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What about like food and that kind of thing? Because I'm sure that trash happens.
It does. So food, what we do with food is ballistic missile subs have a very large pantry, for lack of a better word, built into it. And then we have a large chill box and a large freezer. Mm-hmm. So basically we load out for argument's sake, let's say our typical deployed time should be around 3 months.
Right.
We take double that with us. We have menu planning with nutritionists and everything else. And you cram everything you possibly can. On the fast boats, you will have cans of coffee lining your walkways. So you're literally hunched over walking until you eat down all the food and get the coffee.
Right.
But you pack every bit of food you can onto that submarine. Mm-hmm. The wonderful thing about submarines is you have the highest budget for food.
Right.
Of any naval ship. You actually get extra money because on a submarine, food is your morale.
Mm-hmm. Completely. Okay?
So my cooks, we would do, filet mignon, lobster, crab. We would have every holiday. We had a huge spread. My cooks were amazing because every Saturday night, we literally, this is one of the traditions on a submarine. Mm-hmm. So every Saturday morning, you would wake up to rub-a-dub-dub, go scrub my sub. And you have field day. But you have to go clean. Mm-hmm. Everyone. We're in an enclosed environment. Hygiene is incredibly vital.
Completely.
So, yeah, every Saturday, that's what everyone does. But for lunch, and you never break tradition, it was cheeseburgers, baked beans, French fries. That's it. That's lunch. Mm-hmm. Dinner that night would always be like a hot dog, nothing spectacular. Mm-hmm. Because Saturday night was typically movie night.
Okay.
Where you had 3 areas on the sub where you could sit down as a group and watch movies. Mm-hmm. And my cooks would, from scratch, make these stromboli or pizza. Oof. Or this just handmade awesomes. And we would just put it out during movie time.
Wow.
And that was hugely important that everybody would sit down and just enjoy a meal and relax and, have a little time to zone out on a movie and have some fun.
Yeah, it's so important, especially, I think back in like the coal mining days, they would have donkeys. If they ran them more than a week, they would go blind. But they found that if they gave them a day of rest, they could work just fine. Obviously, you're inside a sub, tight quarters. I can't imagine there's a ton for entertainment. So I think that would be so paramount to have that communal experience, shared communal experience.
It is. And at that time, the whole digital movie thing didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So literally everyone brought their DVD collection on board and books. You brought as many books as you could carry. Mm-hmm. And then when you finished it, we did have a cruise. We called it the cruise library. It was a training space, and you just put it on the shelf. And, hey, I haven't read that. Yeah. And off you go. But you did a lot of reading, a whole lot of training. Mm-hmm. On the subs, you had to be proficient at all times with everything.
So would you guys PT inside the sub?
Or we had a very small gym, and I'm using air quotes again.
Right.
I mean, we had like 2 ellipticals, 2 treadmills, and 1 weight bench with some dumbbells, but they were all you know strapped down. So if you were going to work out, you had to unstrap, pick up your 20-pound dumbbells, restrap, work out, then immediately restow them. And then, you know, the treadmill. Oh, this is a good one. This is another funny story. When I was on the Nebraska, so my XO was awesome. I mean, he was just fun. He was one of those guys that was so much fun. Well, one of the treadmills was right by the supply office on the 3rd deck of the submarine. And I come out of my office one day, and the XO is just going to town on the treadmill. I mean, he is just into it, and he's got the music blasting, and he is just having a ball. And I'm like, So I go up to control, and I go, "Hey, officer at deck, request to relieve diving officer of the watch." Dive looks at me, the chief of the boat, who's master chief, and he's like, "What's up?" I said, "XO's on treadmill." He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah. And everybody's like, "Yeah, relieve the watch." Right. So I relieved the watch, and I was like, you know, because you have to maintain a 0 bubbles like this. So while XO was on the treadmill, I was like, "Come to 1 degree up. Now come to 2 degree up. You settle out. Come to 3 degree up." And I got to 5 degree up bubble before the captain came up. The captain, everybody's like, "Captain on the bridge." He's like, why are we at a 5 degree up angle dive? I said, "Because the XO's on the treadmill." He was like, "Oh." He's like, "Chop, did you make sure your galley was stowed?" I said, "Yeah." Captain goes, "Make it 10. So we get to 10, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the XO comes up to control, like, "What are you doing?" Everyone starts dying laughing, and he was like, "Oh, that's not funny." And the captain was like, "No, that's funny."
That's hilarious.
But yeah, that was the skipper. It was like, "XO's the only one on the treadmill, right?" "Yeah, okay, yeah, 10 degree up bubble."
That's so funny. That's hilarious. I remember I was perusing on Reddit where there was like a similar situation where essentially there was a commanding officer that he was known not as a morning person. And so he came to the chow hall, you know, sat down. He was on a boat from what it sounds like, you know, starting to eat. And it sounded like a window was in a perfect position where the sun was just beaming on his face. And so he radioed to the bridge to move a couple degrees right so that way the sun would be out of his face. And that's so funny. I can just imagine the shenanigans that people would get into.
Halfway night was a big deal on the submarine as well.
Okay. What's that?
So halfway night is when you're halfway done with your patrol. It's basically, for submariners, it's basically Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving all rolled into one. That's when we break out the filet mignon and lobster. You have an incredible meal. And then we would have games. We would literally set up an 18-hole putt-putt course.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the sub. And you could, you know, you could compete. We also had it's just like the Cub Scout Pinewood Derby. You could build a car, and the longest flat space in a sub is cruise berthing. It's probably about, and I'm going off memory here, 50 to 75 feet. But you would line your cars up, and the captain would say, "Okay, give me a 10 degree up bubble." You do an up, and the cars would race. And you would judge a winner, and we'd give out awards. But the key is you had to build the car. You couldn't bring anything with you. You had to build it from what you could find on the sub.
Wow. That's awesome.
Oh, it was great.
That sounds like such a blast.
Yep. And then we'd have all kind of trivia games. And it was a big carnival is what it was. And we would just have a great time. Chance to let off a little steam. And one of the other traditions is the XO has to go on watch so we can steal his door. So you steal the XO's door. You literally take it off the hinges and you hide it. And the XO has to find his door.
No way.
And you would be shocked at how creative submariners can get about where to hide a door on a submarine.
What's the craziest place that you've ever seen someone hide a door?
Under the XO's own rack.
Oh, really?
They put it right under his mattress. And he was scouring the entire submarine for it. And I was like, who came up with that? And they were, this guy. I was like, tip my hat to you, sir. That was great.
You need this man in intelligence. But that's absolutely incredible. So you were in logistics. Was there any other like disciplines or any other like career path that piqued your interest besides logistics?
Well, growing up, like most people, I wanted to be an astronaut until I got left eye damage and I just didn't have the vision, so I couldn't do it. But no, and then right after high school, late 80s, I came this close to enlisting in the Army to go be an Army Ranger. But I took a step back and kind of thought about it and said, let me go to college first and then figure out what I want to do. But yeah, I mean, there's so many cool things to do. I mean, there's obvious, everyone knows about the Navy SEALs and about the pilots and, all that super cool stuff, which is great. But there's so many other things you can do. I mean, the aircraft carrier is a perfect example. We have military police. You literally have a sheriff's department. You have aircraft mechanics. You have people who can build anything. The nuclear engineering piece. You have entire shops on there because you never know what you're going to need to build.
Yeah.
And then you have the bosuns who are just your sailors. I mean, they're the ones shooting the lines across and rigging everything up. It's just incredibly cool. Wow. But yeah, I've always thought, supply appealed to me because of the contracting piece of it, which is what I went into.
Yeah.
Just the idea that, you think about it, but you don't really think about it until someone lays it out for you that somebody's got to buy that aircraft carrier. Somebody's got to buy those planes.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do this. And I was like, man, what a cool job.
Yeah.
And I did, after the sub, I did my contracting internship in Patuxent River, Maryland on the V-22 program. And, that was one of the test beds for the P-20 or V-22s. And at the time, I was the same rank as the pilots, which was great because the guys are like, come on, man, hop in, climb around. And I'm sitting, is this how this works? Yeah. How do you tilt the rotors? How do you do this? But yeah, it was just cool. And going to the facilities where these were being manufactured, as a contracting officer, you need to understand what you're buying.
Of course.
So we would do site visits all the time. And it was just really, really cool to go see a lot of this stuff and get exposed, to the program management side, the contracting side, and even the scientific side. Because when I was a contracting officer in D.C., I got to go to one of our research laboratories. And I got to see physically how they determine crush depths for submarines. And it's the coolest thing because they make these scale models and they put them in this enormous tank and they put pressure on it. And this is all computer simulated until it implodes. And when it implodes, it's almost like a minor earthquake. You can feel it.
I believe it.
But it was just the physics behind all that. It's incredible. And even one of my favorite trips was at one time we were developing anti-torpedo torpedo.
Okay.
So it's hitting a bullet with a bullet. Well,
Right.
we were working with Penn State Applied Physics Laboratory. And I got to go up there. And again, they had this enormous pool with prototypes. And myself and the project manager, they're walking us through everything and showing us the demos in the pool and how it's remote controlled. It was just really, really cool.
That's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. Just the technology. I can just imagine what it is now. Because this was probably what era would you say?
2003.
Okay.
3 to 5.
I can just imagine what they have. It's
Yeah.
Probably absolutely.
I don't want to admit this, but that was 20 years ago.
Right. That was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the amount of technology that we have now, just kind of changing gears a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we met at a pistol competition.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about your experiences with competing and everything with that, kind of what that looks like.
Well, I grew up in North Carolina, rural North Carolina.
Yeah.
Been shooting since I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it never really, saw a little bit of skeet competition. It wasn't really till I came here to Arizona. In Virginia, I really enjoyed it. I joined a gun club, but they really didn't do competitions. They were kind of just starting at the time.
Yeah.
And somebody said, man, you ought to try it. It's fun. Well, when I first moved out here to Arizona, C2, where we were, I happened to live close to there when I first moved here. And they said, yeah, we do this pistol competition. And I looked at my wife. I said, I'm going to go try it. She's like, you should.
Yeah.
Go.
Hell yeah.
I said, okay. And I went out there and did my first competition and was like, man, this is fun.
Yeah.
And so I was doing it. They were doing it, I think, it may have been the same cadence of once a month that they're doing it now.
Yeah.
But I went to every one, and then COVID hit. And everything shut down.
Yeah.
And then we had a child during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a little bit after COVID and everything else to make the time. But again, my wife was so supportive and going, no, you really enjoy that. Go. Find out when it is and go.
Wow.
So, yeah, the first one we met at was the first time I'd done it since COVID.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. But, yeah,
wow.
Just decided to head out there. And then the fact that my neighbor had also said, hey, I want to go try this thing. And he and I talked, and I said, well, I used to do it before COVID. Mm-hmm. He's like, let's do it again. Yeah, let's go. Why not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's something about shooting competitions. So for the listeners who don't know, probably in the last 3 months, I've really started to get into it. And there's something so cool about it is that it's like a shared communal experience. It's also, if you have an affinity for firearms, it puts you in positions that you don't normally have opportunities to shoot in on like a static flat range.
Yep.
And so you're able to really kind of test your skills and kind of work in a way that you don't typically normally are able to work in. Going from draw, reloads, all that good stuff. And
then moving while you're shooting.
And moving while you're shooting, which is a skill in its own.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. And it is just so much fun. And the competitions we're doing now where it's completely reactive, right? You see a whole bunch of targets, but you never know which ones you have to shoot until you flip the cup and they start the timer.
Yeah.
And then you have to look down and recognize red or blue and go engage the appropriate targets. Sometimes shooting through obstacles. Mm-hmm. That last one we did, I'm still like...
Oh, my God. It's like Simon Says for pistols, right?
It is.
So what's your competition setup look like?
Right now I've got the VP9, Heckler & Koch VP9. Redid the trigger with Gray's Guns adjustable trigger, which I really, really like. And then I've got the Trijicon RMR sight on it.
Yeah.
Which, again, I love the RMR sights because I never have to turn them on. They're always on. I never have to change a battery.
Yeah.
Yep.
One less thing to worry about.
Exactly. But yeah, that. And then I did put a flared magwell on the bottom, so it's much easier to reload. Yeah, that's about all I've really modified on the VP9.
Yeah.
That I really, and I've got the VP9L, which is the long slide. I got that years ago, but it's great. And the first one I did, I brought my my Glock Combat Master. That really enjoy shooting that gun.
Yeah, it's a great gun.
But I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to put a sight on it.
Exactly. Iron life, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I like keeping the iron sights on that one.
Absolutely. And the VP9 is such a great gun. That's also what I use to compete. And it's ergonomic, shoots really well. Recoil impulse is wonderful. And there's just a lot of, I feel like, thoughtful, intentional designs on it. I guess that's kind of the German way where everything's over-engineered, but it's a fantastic gun.
Well, yeah, and for me, the thing is, the first time I picked one up, the grips, and that's one of the few handguns I own that I've never done anything to the grips.
Yep.
I'm like, I really like this.
I don't know why there aren't more guns with that style of grip, because I've talked with everyone that I've ever talked to who's shot one. They love it.
Oh, yeah.
They love how it feels.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's a fantastic pistol. I love it to death. And I actually have a VP9 SK also.
Okay.
For the concealed carry purpose.
Yeah. I haven't shot one of those. What does the recoil impulse look like?
It feels to me just like shooting a VP9, to be honest with you. I mean, the barrel's much shorter, but I still don't notice the recoil. That's
amazing.
As significant. Let me put it. There's recoil, but not significant.
Right.
I'll bring mine next time we go.
Yeah, that'd be fun to shoot. Yeah, because I've always wondered, because, the VP9 is really great, so I've always wondered about the SK. Yeah.
And I've got a P30 and a P30L, which were the predecessors to these. They're basically the same gun, but the P30s have hammers, and the VP9s are hammerless.
Right.
They're so similar, you can use the same mags.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I love them, is the magazines are completely interchangeable.
Yeah.
The P30L, P30, and VP9.
And you have a P30, yeah?
Yeah.
P30, yeah. It's a beautiful gun. Wasn't that the original John Wick gun?
Yes. I'm mistaken? The P30L.
P30L.
With a compensator on it. Yeah, that was the original John Wick. That's
so cool. The John Wick series has been almost like a renaissance of, gunfighting done well in Hollywood, because there's a lot of times where you see somebody, using guns, and it's just like their bolt is held back when they're engaging, or their fingers are not even on the trigger while it's firing. So it's good to see somebody that is so intentional, and also just like the coolness factor of all the guns that he used. Like, there are no boring guns there.
That's true. And I heard someone, when John Wick first came out, and somebody told me, man, you really need to see this movie. And I was talking to another buddy in Virginia who I used to go shooting with, and he says, oh, you haven't seen the Gun Fu movie? And I started laughing, and I went, Gun Fu? And then after I watched it, I went, I get that reference now.
Yep.
I totally get that reference
Absolutely.
now. But, yeah, no, I have thoroughly enjoyed those movies. And, yeah, I haven't seen Ballerina yet.
Me neither.
I'm looking forward to watching that one.
We should go on a date and go watch it in theaters. Like, it'll be perfect, right?
There you go.
I've been meaning to watch it.
Yep. Actually, when John Wick 4 came out, Aaron, the guy you met at the house, I got Aaron and a few other friends together, and we all went to see 2. We all brought the guns. We went shooting. Then we all went out, had a great steak and dinner, and then we all went to go see John Wick 4.
Wow.
So maybe we could do that.
I think that would be fabulous.
You get a group together. It was so much fun as the group, too.
Absolutely.
Because everybody brought like 2 or 3 guns. We got 4 lanes, and we just kept shifting and trying out things. I mean, Aaron actually brought a revolver, which ironically, 3 of the people there had never shot a revolver.
No way.
So it was one of those, wow, you never shot a revolver. Okay, come here, try, learn.
If you're in the West, you kind of have to by law.
Exactly.
To shoot one of these, right?
It's a rule. It's a rule.
Right, yeah.
But no, we had a great time doing that. So yeah,
let's set it up.
I think that's a great idea.
A fabulous idea.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And again, you bring the John Wick guns to shoot, then go watch the movie.
And then go watch the John Wick movie.
The problem is, I usually come home like, my wife will be, how was the movie? Man, it was great. And he had this new gun, and I get the look. He was like, I know you know where to get that, and no.
Exactly. If I say the words to my wife, hey, I've been thinking about this gun, like that's probably it for our marriage. Like she's so done. She's like, whatever, just be done with it. Yeah. Well, hey, before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask you one last question.
Sure.
So, you meet somebody, they've never seen any Star Wars movie ever. What order would you recommend them watch?
The original release order.
That is the correct answer.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Yep. I completely agree.
That's what I do with both my kids.
Mm-hmm.
You start with Star Wars, the original.
Yeah.
And then the inevitable questions that we all asked when we saw it in the theaters. Well, how did Darth Vader? Who's he? Okay, now we're going to watch the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And then with kids, it's a great way to get them into the Clone Wars, which are fantastic.
Fabulous.
Yeah, love the Clone Wars. And it brings you right up. You follow the movies, and it brings you right up to the Mandalorian and Ahsoka, which are, Ahsoka Season 2 is coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
And it just culminates. So, yeah, that's definitely the right order to watch.
I completely agree. Like, experience the story in the way that the creator originally intended it to be told.
And again, for me, I want my kids to experience it the same way I did.
Yeah.
Which is, you see this and you're like, man, Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the backstory.
Yeah.
Because in Star Wars, they mentioned fought in the Clone Wars. And I remember everybody, what was the Clone Wars? What was that?
Right.
You never explained that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Man, it's such a good franchise. Like, I remember, really being into it growing up and just experiencing it in the ways that it was presented. It just makes the most sense.
Absolutely.
And you can't start people on The Phantom Menace and be like, this is their introduction to Star Wars. Like, you can't do that to people, right?
No. You gotta start with the original. I mean, there's just so many classic things about that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the other thing I would encourage people is there's a special, I think it's on Disney Plus now, of John Williams, the man behind the music.
Mm-hmm.
You never really realize that virtually every modern movie theme that you recognize, including the Olympic theme, was him.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
Absolutely.
But part of that, they really go into Star Wars and how he was working with Lucas at Spielberg's recommendation. And they actually show a clip from the first time that he had the whole orchestra together and was going to score the movie with the movie playing. And Lucas was sitting there. And Lucas is like, I'm terrified. I don't know if this is going to work. John has this crazy idea. But he says the moment they did the original theme, and you see it when it goes up there and you see Star Wars and the bum, da-da-da, and you see Lucas just go, yep. This is it.
Lightning in a bottle. Like,
yep.
Man, I could just imagine what that would be like, just to experience that for the first time live, like in its infancy.
Yep. And they had never, ever done it before. But it is such a cool series because, George Lucas says it in this. He's like, look, Star Wars wouldn't be Star Wars without the music. Mm-hmm. And he's right. The music makes everything. I mean, who doesn't know the Imperial March?
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows it. Mm-hmm. It's such an iconic piece.
Oh, it is. Yeah. But it's utterly fascinating. So if you haven't watched that, you ought to pull that up and watch it.
I'll have to check it out. I definitely have some homework to do after this. Well, Carl, thank you so much for lending your expertise, your storytelling here on Target Talks. I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, I thank you for having me. I really appreciate that, Garrett. Yeah. Always good to chat.
Always. And if you're looking to buy or sell real estate in Arizona, feel free to call or text. My phone number is 616-402-5216. And I'll see you next time. And thank you again, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.